Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, it is yours truly once again, the corporate security translator and the author of So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. I got something really cool and special for all you out there, man. I'm talking about from CIA to big-time corporate trainer, corporate leader, and everything you can possibly imagine. That's it. That's the route we're going, man. CIA to corporate today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, it is yours truly once again, the corporate security translator and the author of So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. I got something really cool and special for all you out there, man. I'm talking about from CIA to big-time corporate trainer, corporate leader, and everything you can possibly imagine. That's it. That's the route we're going, man. CIA to corporate today. And the one and only, hanging out with me, Mr. Adam Korn. Let's clap Adam Korn in, everybody. Oh, Mr. Adam Korn.
Carlos.
How are you, brother? What's going on, man?
I'm doing great. How are you? Good to see you.
You know, just another day. Here we are, man, working hard every day as we usually do. And I'm so glad you found a little time, man, to come and hang with little OB, man, and share your knowledge. And I know we talked a lot about some real awesome stuff, man. But, yeah, as always, as I start out, man, why don't you tell the folks about yourself, your path, man. Tell them.
Absolutely. I first got in security. I was in grad school, and I got a fellowship through the Department of Defense called the David L. Bourne Fellowship. And they paid for me to study Bahasa Indonesian of all languages. And they paid for me to go to Indonesia for a while. I worked out of the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. And also I worked in the Philippines, which was really cool. Came out of there, and then I slowly got involved in the intelligence community. Worked for the CIA. I was a targeting officer, initially as a contractor. Eventually, I became a Fed. And through there, I sidestepped to the National Nuclear Security Administration, which I just sort of felt fascinating. So I wanted to learn about how do you secure radiological nuclear material. And I knew there was so much to learn there. And I thought it would be a great segue, because I knew eventually I wanted to transition into the private sector. And I didn't see too many translatable skills, to be honest with you, when I was at the agency, at the CIA. But I did see a lot of transferable skills working at the National Nuclear Security Administration in terms of like physical security and everything you can learn at the national laboratories. Did that for 5 years, and I was always teaching in that capacity as well, teaching civilian sites how to secure radiological nuclear material.
Wow.
There's a lot to be learned there. So eventually they assigned me, or I was assigned as a Fed, to go teach at National Defense University at Fort McNair, where I taught a few semesters. And I really enjoyed teaching classes on, how to protect key resources and critical infrastructure. And I taught a course that I created called Red Teaming, which I still teach to this day sometimes. Absolutely love the subject matter. But after my time there, I had to make a choice. Do I stay a federal employee, or do I transition to the private sector? And I really just kind of assessed my goals, and I kind of felt that it was time for me to transition from the federal government and into the private sector. But I was intimidated. I didn't really know who would accept me or want me or be interested in my background and skills. Right. So I did kind of a deep dive. I applied for thousands of jobs, got thousands of rejections, got nowhere. My resume was like a federal resume. It wasn't private sector resume. The turning point is, I told myself I'd never do it, but I hired a professional resume writer. And I said, look, I don't know anything but the federal government. Can you help me, write a resume that'd be more acceptable in the private sector? Right. I needed some help. And the resume, she did a fantastic job. And it was she's never worked with any federal people before, but she said, yeah, your resume doesn't look good at all. Let's fix it up. And then she made it.
Y'all quirky, man. That's why she was like, oh my God, what is this federal stuff?
She thought it was weird. And then, so I applied for a job with, like I said, thousands of jobs, but one of the jobs I applied for was with Google. And they wanted a security trainer to build a training program for their in-house security officers who were FTEs. They had about 300 of them. And I applied for the job, and I was shocked at how easily, I got it in terms of just being, straight up. They interviewed me over the phone a few times. And then eventually flew me out to the Bay Area, Mountain View, and I had my on-site interview. Bam, I got the job. Did that for while, and it was fantastic, and I really enjoyed it, learned a ton. But then I got a chance to work at Fitbit, where I got to be their first ever physical security manager, building out their first program ever they've had on physical security. Got to build my own GSOC. I got to build, hire my own employees.
Lord.
And I had to like just do cool things in terms
Yeah.
of like building security culture at a company that really desired to build security culture but didn't quite know how. Did that for a while and eventually found myself here working with you, Carlos, and I've never been happier.
Dude.
Yep.
Sometimes we talk, but we never talk enough, man. That's an incredible background, man. And so here are a couple of things that right away before we kick into some other stuff. But first of all, 1,000 jobs, man. You apply for so many of them, and you kind of just waiting for it to come across, and you get that opportunity, man. And then so one day just clicks, and then boom, and you get that opportunity. I try to tell that to people all the time. It's not easy to transition. It's a process. It's almost like a part-time gig on the side because you're applying everywhere. You're kind of remodeling your resume to fit a job description a lot of times. And then, you go to some interviews too, and you fail sometimes and you don't get the job. But that process of learning and getting you better, just feeling comfortable with the corporate world, man, it usually gets you there. And then all of a sudden, boom, it clicked, man. It clicked for you, and there you are with Google, and then Fitbit, which is really cool, man. I'm not gonna tell my wife you ever work for Fitbit because she'd be like, hey, let me get one of those watches and stuff, and all the Fitbit stuff. So, nah, dude, that is really, really awesome, man. There's another thing that also that you brought up. I thought it was quite interesting. So you use the resume writer. Some people, they have used it before, but a lot of them don't understand the corporate security business. And like you said, just trying to figure out what it is to come out of the federal. How did that process work with a resume writer? Did you have to sit down with her or him in a meeting? Did you say her? I think
yes.
Her. Did you just sit down in a meeting and she asked you a bunch of questions like, dude, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And what's this all about?
Well, it's funny. A lot of resume writers are scammers, to be honest with you. A lot of them will try to charge you thousands of dollars. They won't be clear about how much they will charge you.
Right.
And I remember I called quite a few, I called quite a few actually. So I just found one, and what her specialty was, shockingly, was she was an ex-principal of a high school that retired, and she specialized in helping teachers improve their resumes so they can get out of teaching.
Wow.
Because she felt that teaching wasn't conducive for really empowering people who really want to make a decent paycheck and make a life. Now I'm not saying I share her view, but she just told me her story, and she had a flat rate, and it was not expensive, but she just had integrity.
Yep.
And I looked at some of her examples of resumes she built.
Yeah.
And I just thought they looked very professional, and she just, and she was working because she wanted to, not because she had to. And I remember that was fantastic. But one thing led to another, and I actually found an even more skilled resume writer that I use here in the Bay Area, which I'm happy if anyone comes to me and wants her name, I'm happy to give that plug. I have no dog in the fight.
That's perfect.
She won't, I won't get a discount, nothing like that. But I do have that contact if anyone really wants it. She's helped out a lot of my friends, including me.
Dude, we could put it right on when I post it up, man. We'll if this person doesn't mind, man, we'll make sure the name is right on there. We'll connect, we'll connect the folks. Good point that you made, by the way, because I actually got mine also done, but it was like a Groupon thing. It came across Groupon for like $50. They did my resume, which was great. I thought it was, and then I was able to mold it from there. I took what they did, and then I was able to mold it from there. But you're right, man. There's a lot of scammers out there. I seen it all the way up to $350 before, and incredible, man. So good, but hey, so you get the gig, man. You're doing your thing, and now you're involved. You're in the middle of corporate, America, corporate security with, by the way, major companies, man. Like coming from where you came from, right into a Google, coming where you went, and then you Fitbit. I mean, that speaks volume of you, of who you are, and you were able to get in there and do these things. And now, Facebook, man. So those are big things. But I think you and I talked about this, and we learned a couple of things along the way. What really works for some folks or really does not work for some folks, how people get in trouble as they transition from the military, law enforcement, emergency services, federal careers like you did, like things little landmines that you need to know as you come into the corporate world. And man, and you had a bunch of great ones. And I don't know if you want to get into that now, but I
Love
love
to.
to hear some of that stuff, man.
Love to, love to. So I kind of organize it. So I have 5 things and they're really easy to remember. And some of them are really basic, but I've seen a lot of people who transitioned from the government in one way, shape or form, law enforcement, military, you name it. And they came to the private sector and, some of them work in tech or other parts of private sector, and they still made some kind of rookie mistakes that got them in a little hard water and hot water and made the transition a little more difficult for them. So I want to kind of give 5 pearls of wisdom of 5 common oversights or mistakes I see people making once they do actually get their job from and leave the government to come work in the private sector. And I'd like
Yep.
to share this with you if that's okay with you.
Man, this is money. This is money right here, everybody. Look, big money. This is the time for you to pull out your pen or everything else. If you want to get into the corporate world, you need to know what not to do or how not to get in trouble. And if you are in the corporate world right now, and sometimes you just go, "Oh crap, dang it." Here's another. He's giving you a heads up, everybody. So listen up, listen up. Take your pens, get it. All right,
All
here
right,
we go.
jumping right in. Number 1, I would say, I call this piece of advice, as above, so below.
As
So of
above.
course you want to take care of the people above you in terms of delivering and on all the expectations they're laying on you. And that's very important. But I see a mistake that a lot of people make is they treat the people above them extremely well, but they don't always treat the people below them equally as well. And they don't make good on the expectations that the people below them have of them in terms of being a good leader, a good manager, communicating well, treating everyone with respect and kindness.
Wow.
And the reason why it's critically important, because in the private sector, it's not common for people that once worked for you. Sometimes they can slingshot past you. And next thing you know, 1, 2 years down the road, they're your boss. And if
Ain't
you
that
didn't
the
treat them
truth?
correctly, if you didn't treat them right, they're going to remember that. And it will harm your career. And on top of all that, it's just the right thing to do.
Adam.
Treat people equal respect, whether they report to you or you report to them.
Adam,
Yes,
you get
sir.
another clap. Get another clap. Let me tell you something, man. You're kicking it off already, but that's an explosion of information right away, because you're right. I've had that incident, by the way, where somebody that used to work for me shot up, and man, and I used to always say, that person right there, that person will be great and an amazing leader one day, and I'd love to work for them. So, dude, you are right, and it happens often in the corporate world. Be cautious of that. Care, because a lot of people, they only care about is the ones above them because they want to move on themselves and not pay attention to the little folks, man, that are building you. The real folks that are building you, man. So look, as above, so below. Not love it. Love it. All right, man. Give
All
it to
right.
us.
Number 2, annotation armor. Okay, that's what I call this piece of advice. What I recommend to you is, at the beginning of the year, on January 1st, or you can do this really anytime, but go to CVS or go to Office Depot, whatever, and buy an old school, day planner.
Yep.
And that has every single day of the year. And as you're kind of living out your days, you're going to have awkward conversations at work from time to time that don't always sit right with you. Someone might say something that is a little bit strange, like they will twist your words or say something that, you just didn't quite say it that way. And it wasn't enough for you to take any action. But I recommend writing down, going that calendar, going to that day and going to that time and annotating what made you uncomfortable. And you just make a habit of doing that. And I learned that from someone who worked at McKinsey. And that's what he did. And I asked him why he did it. He said, this has saved my job 3 times in my career.
Wow.
He's like, I do this every day. And and he called it his annotation armor. And he annotated things that were weird. And he said 6 months later, he was in his role, and something came up with HR, and they said, hey, did you have a discussion with someone, and did you say something strange or weird, and that made him feel a certain way where they had to bring it up to our level? And he just went to his calendar and he said, what day did the individual say this happened? I just wanted to refresh my memory. And he was able to annotate exactly what happened that day. And even though it was like 6 months later, I mean, it gave him a lot of credibility. And then
Right.
HR said, what is that? And he said, look, throughout every single day, I write down my engagements and interactions with people because I want to make sure I'm always above board, keeping myself honest. and I want to, it helps me jog my memory.
Right.
And that bought them a lot of credibility. And thankfully, I haven't had to use that to save my own skin at any point in time, but I literally do that every day of my life. I have a day planner, and I literally write in it every single day, or not every day, but every time there's an engagement that just kind of
Right.
raises my eyebrow or my spider sense goes off. I just write down kind of what happened in case it's ever needed in the future. And I know that sounds aggressive to some people, but it's not. It's like defensive driving, and you just got to do it just because it's just the world in which we live.
But I also like what you said, though, man. It's really about keeping yourself in check too. You
Sure.
know, if it was something awkward, you can learn from all those experiences as well. So as you do it, you're like, oh man, that was kind of weird. Maybe I wouldn't do that
Totally.
personally.
Everyone says something stupid, including ourselves.
Yeah.
I've said things I wish I didn't say, not because there was malicious intent, but there was times where like you misspoke, and you mark that down as well. And that way, if like there's questions, you say, look, I did say that in this date, I'll own up to it, but it wasn't the intent. And here
This is
was
what I
the
meant. This
this
is
is
what I
what
meant.
this is truly what I meant. And I think that gives you, as long as you're honest, it gives you credibility, because nothing builds credibility like honesty.
I love it. I love it, man. All right. That one is written down. Number 3, sir. Number 3.
Number 3 might be a little bit disappointing for some people, but for whatever reason, when I was in the federal government, I always enjoyed a certain level of camaraderie.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I can't define camaraderie for you. Camaraderie is like the word obscenity. I can't define it, but I know it is when I see it. With camaraderie, I always enjoyed a certain level of camaraderie with the government. And I just sadly, Carlos, you and I get along super well, but it's just like in the big scheme of my private sector career, I've not enjoyed that same level of camaraderie.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to tell you is manage your expectations, that you may not be able to find that same level of camaraderie you had in your federal service or in your government service or law enforcement service. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way it is. And I see a lot of individuals who come from law enforcement, military, government, and they're searching for a camaraderie and they aren't finding it, and they feel isolated as a result. So just manage your expectations and understand that camaraderie. I call it camaraderie lost, but that's too harsh of a word. I would say it's more of a minimized level of camaraderie that you're just not going to find what you used to have. But that's okay, because there's plenty of other wonderful aspects in the private sector that are not in the federal service or law enforcement that you can enjoy.
I'll tell you, to go deeper into this, everybody, if you're listening, go into Altaf Bora's podcast that I did with him a couple of months ago. And he is kind of like yourself. He misses that relationship, the way of life, how you were every day. And he, that's exactly what he says about the corporate world. Like, you can't find that mission anymore. You can't find that squad anymore they used to roll with. You can't, you'd be able to just joke about anything, and they would give it back to you, and the day would be fun and and exciting. And when it was time, when the going got tough, everybody came together, right? When it wasn't, then everybody relaxed. But that is sometimes hard to find in the corporate world. So I hear you, man. I hear you. So that's a real good one. I like that, managing expectations with the camaraderie piece. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I got that as number 3. We're going to go to 4 now, man. 4.
Number 4 is kind of related to it. Dial it back. The truth is, I think that we all want to show our personalities in the workplace, and some cultures in the federal government, you can kind of, you don't have to dial it back. You can be extraordinarily charismatic, and I have friends who are very charismatic and have tons of energy in law enforcement and intelligence even. And they always say, hey, Adam, I want to get a job in the private sector. And I said, hey, you wouldn't last here 5 minutes. You got to dial it back. And they go, what do you mean? I'm like, you just be a little bit boring, do your job. You can still laugh, joke, make friends and have a good time, but you're going to have to dial it back just a little bit. And then when someone asks you, like, how was your weekend? You don't have to tell them every single detail. You might just at times have to keep colleagues at arm's length. And it's not popular to say that. It doesn't make everyone feel good, but it's really just be a professional in the workplace. And, don't try to be everyone's buddy in that regard. Just understand that, treat everyone with equal respect and kindness, but, dial back your personality perhaps a little bit just to be a professional in the workplace.
Man, that really is a good one, because a lot of folks that come from the military, law enforcement, emergency service, and federal careers, they're so comfortable in exactly that and just being themselves. And somebody said, "Well, what'd you do?" Like you said, "What'd you do this weekend?" Well, you should have seen these chicks that I met in New. You can't do those conversations anymore. Or, man, you're not gonna believe this. I thought I was gonna drink 2 beers. I ended up drinking 2 dozen beers,
Yeah.
and it was a heck of a lot of fun. However, because they judge you a little bit too.
Yes, spot on examples. Like,
Dude, they judge you.
None of that. Just none of that. And when people ask me how my weekend was going, I always have the same answer. And I've done this even to you, Carlos. As much as I trust you,
It's okay.
I always say it was very relaxing. I had a great weekend. I went hiking, and I did a lot of biking, and I went running on the beach, and it was just a nice weekend. And I never say anything else. And it's just perfect. I know it's you want to be your genuine self, but sometimes you just got to
works. And it works. But I know you got a little hippie in you, bro. If you studied all that Asian stuff, I know you got a little hippie in you, man.
Well, I've been living in Asia a long time.
I know, buddy. I see you. I see you. All right. Hey, that was a good one. I like that one. And there's plenty of folks that I know that I work with. A lot of military folks, by the way. Sometimes I got to go, hey, whoa, man. You're not in the middle of war right now. You can't talk like that, man. That's not how it works. So I got you. Okay, so that was number 4. Dial back. We're going to Cinco, number 5.
Number 5, and this one should go without saying, but it's just know your worth. If you're working in an environment where you're not being treated with kindness and respect, I know there's 2 different philosophies on this. One is, people will feel like there's no running from that. It just, they're going to look for a better situation, aren't going to find it, so they're going to jump, and keep on, until they find somewhere where they think is perfect. But nowhere, no work environment is perfect. But that being said, know your self-worth. If you're not being treated with like kindness and respect and professionalism in the workplace, be the master of your own ship.
Yeah.
And do something about it. I'm not saying quit that instant. I'm not saying you should quit. I'm just saying, whatever you can do to make sure that you're always working in an environment where, there is equal respect and kindness and courtesy, whatever it takes to make that happen, make that happen. Don't endure a work situation where you're being, talked down to, or, abused in some way, shape, or form, or you're meant to feel anxiety all the time in the workplace. Because life is really short and it's over before you know it. And so, my advice is to really know your worth and live your life like you truly value yourself, because you are, not to get too hippy dippy, but you are valuable, and everyone deserves to be treated with the utmost respect. And you really deserve to treat yourself with respect. And I see a lot of people, including people who really, really deserve respect immensely, like veterans, sometimes working in not great environments or great situations. That breaks my heart. And I always think to myself, really, I hope they are doing whatever it takes to make sure that they know their worth, and they're going to correct that situation in a way that's constructive and good for everyone.
I think it was Sylvester Stallone in Rocky V telling his kid, because his kid was bugging him about, Dad, I got to live in your shadow. And I think Sylvester Stallone tells his kid, dude, if you know what you're worth, go get what you're worth. Stop saying all these things, because if you know what you're worth, go get what you're worth. If you know who you are, if you know how you operate, if you have integrity, and you're honest about how you approach people, and you're honest on how you lead, and how you sometimes are vulnerable enough to be led, because that's important too. You're a kind human being. You really mean well for others, and you're working in that atmosphere. It is incredible. I mean, it's incredible. But if you're not, you're right. Know what you're worth, and kind of following that direction, man, and that lead of how your life leads you, man. Look, this is really cool stuff. So I like the as above, so below. Yep. I like the whole annotation armor, the camaraderie of managing expectations and how you feel when you're coming in. I like that, man. Down on the back, the boisterous thing sometimes, man. I see it. I see it all the time. Know your worth, man. Like, all of these are really cool little principles, man, that you were able to put together. as you were going through this process of putting it together, and I know that you mentioned your friend and stuff like that, um, what were some of like the key things that you said, if I could just share this with some people, basically, why is it, man? Why is it that you're doing this?
I think that, I think that we all have to help each other. Like you're doing a great thing, Carlos. Like you're helping people, really kind of progress in their careers. And, it's not just a job, it's a livelihood, and
Yeah.
it really opens opportunity. And I think that everyone deserves to really, work, to really end up really where they want to be and
Right.
achieve their goals, as long as they're willing to work hard, have integrity, treat others with respect, treat themselves with respect. I think anything that we can do in this security field to help each other,
Yeah.
I think that we need to do it. Like, very commonly, veterans especially reach out to me over LinkedIn, and I've never turned one away. I always say, hey, let's, instead of sending chats back and forth, let's set up a phone call.
Yep.
I still invite that to this day, anytime, and typically my heart goes out specifically, for veterans, but anyone comes to me. I have people who are just fresh out of college who think security is cool, who have no law enforcement, military, government background, and I do what I can to help them
Yeah.
best I can. And I never would ever charge any money for that kind of thing. Of course, I mean, never. And it's sad because sometimes they offer it, or they say, I'm going to send you a gift. I've had people in the military say that we want to send you patches or challenge coins from law enforcement. I say, you know what, don't worry about it. The only thing I ask is when you do get a job and you are situated, is that you help somebody else who comes to you, because inevitably it's going to happen. And it's going to be easy to say I'm too busy. But inevitably, once you get a job, especially at a good company, people are going to start sending you emails over LinkedIn. And they're going to say, I need a little bit of help. Can you give me some advice? And just make time for all of them and help as many people as you can, because it's the right thing to do. And one of the key recipes for being happy in life is just continuously doing the right thing and being compassionate. And just, like you said, there's a little hippie in me, I guess, and that's where it's coming out. But these are all intrinsic truths that we all need to follow.
Dude, oh my goodness, man. Help me help you help others. I think that's kind of like the path of yeah, and like I feel the same way too, man. It's the reason why I do it. I really have a deep need to help. Sometimes even my wife, I've had this conversation now. We're probably going to go into a philosophical quickie here, but my wife will say, you give so much time back to everybody else, but for me at this time in my career, that's what excites me more than anything else, man, is giving back to the folks that I can give back to. And more my schedule gets a little more packed every day with a bunch of other stuff, but I do try to give back. And people have to understand a lot of times we take time away from our families and our friends to give back to them. So one, I hope that it's well received and people are focusing on helping others when the time come. And like you, I hope I don't say it to them, but I hope that they're feeling the same way when the time comes. So, man, I'm pumped up that you're doing all this stuff, man. Thank you. You're the man. Look, we got a couple of minutes left, 1 or 2 minutes or so. So leave us with some parting words, man.
I think that I think we've already covered the meat of it, really. I think it's just, definitely reach out to people.
Yeah.
People do want to help you, but treat it just like a numbers game. If you're going to apply for 1,000 jobs and get, 999 rejections, but you got one acceptance, that means you're just one job away from accomplishing your objective. And, cold contact people who look like they're just, who seem like they're just nice, and on LinkedIn or whatever.
Yeah.
And realize you're going to have to do that to 1,000, say if you're doing it if you cold contact 50 people on LinkedIn and never ask for a thing, don't ask them to look at your resume, don't attach your resume, don't ask them for an internal employee referral.
Right.
Just email 50 people and make it a custom email. Don't cut and paste and say, hey, look, I looked at your profile over LinkedIn. You have a really impressive background. I see that you and I both work for X agency at this time and
right.
A lot of great work. I'm really trying to get in the private sector. Would you ever be willing to maybe having a 10-minute chat with me over the phone to give me some word of advice? That being said, and if there's anything I could ever do for you, also let me know on that phone call. Thank you and have a wonderful day. And you're going to send that email, something like it, to 50 people over LinkedIn. And I would say probably 3, maybe 4 will be open to having a phone conversation with you. And that is a fantastic return.
That's right.
So, and then just talk with them, get advice what you can, build a relationship. And, eventually, if they really like you and you kind of manage the rapport correctly, you don't have to ask for a thing. They'll say, hey, look, you sound like a hell of a nice person. And I admire your boldness, and you're asking really sincere questions. I've got to know you. And, my company has an internal referral program. And, if I could submit your application for you, which will better your odds. And, something like, and maybe selfishly, I'll make a little money out of it too, because that's the way their internal employee program works in various companies. And let that happen organically, but don't ask for things other than advice, and then just build a relationship, organically. And then also offer, never make it one-sided like every other relationship. Don't just be like, hey, you got to help me. Always add in, towards the back when you're ending the engagement, you say, or that particular phone call, you say, hey, look, right now it may not seem like I can help you, but if there's anything I can help you with, please let me know. And you'll be surprised. Sometimes we'll say, well, I know that you and I both work for this agency, but I left 5 years ago. I wanted a little bit of benchmarking. What's the latest on how to protect this type of facility from your perspective? And then also it's a two-way street. And once it's a two-way street, you're helping each other, then relationships grow. So that's my advice.
Man, that is key, everybody. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, my friend. Everybody listening, and then later on video. That was Adam Korn, man, sharing some knowledge with us. Look, we covered a lot of stuff. We're gonna add on that resume plug later on, talking about rookie mistakes, his 5-point plan, I guess, or 5-step plan to keep you out of trouble while you're out there in that transition. A lot of great stuff. Help me help you in order to help others. So this is big, brother. Thank you very much once again for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll leave it here. So, hey, everybody, once again, that was the Corporate Security Translator podcast, and me, the author of So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. It was a blast having you.
Thank you
today.
So much, Carlos.
It was man. Thank you, Adam. So, all right, everybody take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Good day.